Well, it was only a matter of time before I got round to reviewing this masterpiece of cinema that is Street Fighter, the movie with Van Damme, made in 1994. So, Street Fighter 2 was a huge and well, it's a huge deal. It was a big impact. Street Fighter 2 when it came out, it was mega, still big to this day. Street Fighter as we know, but Street Fighter 2 when it came out was like a phenomenon. It was that big, so it was only natural Hollywood thought, you know what, we'll have some of that. We're going to make a movie of it. Let's get some cash in here. Street Fighter's big with the kids. Let's make a movie. The film was released in '94, directed by Stephen E. Souza, I believe that's how you say his name, who was mainly working, his main field of work was that he's a screenplay writer. He worked on films such as Die Hard 2, Judge Dredd, Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, that kind of thing. So by that kind of that's his track record, you think, okay, we might be in good hands here. I mean, obviously at the time I didn't know so much about this, but looking at that on paper now, you think, okay, that's what he's done. That's previous. He's worked that as a writer, so he sort of understands how blockbuster film works. He sort of understands sort of the Hollywood machine, that kind of thing. So you're thinking, okay, we might, we might be in good hands. He knows how to work a blockbuster, but oh boy, oh boy. So the film stars Van Damme and Raul Julia. I mean, this is very much a Van Damme film, I would say. It's very much in sort of line with sort of the films that he had sort of done up to that point. It's very much a Van Damme type of film. Although he's not on screen, I'll say for a total about a quarter of it, because it's shared with the rest of the cast, because they had to sort of squeeze in as many characters from Street Fighter as possible to keep all the fans happy. I say Raul Julia. He plays Bison. It's obviously Raul Julia's last movie before he, unfortunately, tragically passed away. And he's hands down the best thing in it. He's hands down. Raul Julia is Bison. I absolutely love him as Bison. I think the general consensus is most people do. I think he did it, if I recall, for his kids or some member of his family was a fan of Street Fighter, so that's why he decided to do it. But Raul Julia, bless him, he is the best thing in this film by a country mile. I mean, obviously, I loved him in this. Gomez, I remember as well, watching back in the 90s. Adam's Family, where absolutely loved that. Adam's Family values, Adam's Family. But yeah, you got Kylie Minogue's Cammy, and the rest of them, I don't have a clue who half of them are, but we'll get into that. But I always remember when this was first announced, like even at that young age, when I was sort of about, I don't know, I must have been 8-9 years old. I just suddenly thought, the first thing that came to mind, even that when I was that young, I thought, why are we focusing on Guile? Like, why aren't we following Ryu? Like, why, or Ryu, if some people have, sort of ways they say it, like the main protagonist from Street Fighter. I mean, this is something the anime got right. Well, let's face it, the anime got basically everything right in regards to sort of how a Street Fighter film should be done. But I just remember thinking, why are we focusing on Guile? It's not taking anything away from Van Damme at all. Big Van Damme fan here, but I just suddenly thought, why have we got to follow Guile? That was my big sort of raise an eyebrow moment, thinking, right, why? So basically, the plot of the film, again, very brief, and this will be very brief because there's not a lot to the plot of this film. General Bison, played by Raul Julia, has taken these relief workers as hostages for ransom. As ransom for cash. That is basically the film. He's just got these relief workers. He's taken them hostage. He wants some money. I mean, the first thing about this film when you go to watch it, that they sort of get. I mean, you see Bison right away. You see Bison within the first 2 minutes. Like, there's no mystery here. They don't build him up at all. You just see Bison straight away. And the first thing we learn is that Chun-Li, Balrog, and Honda all work in the media. So already you're thinking, right. Then we find out that Ken and Ryu are sort of hustlers and con artists. I mean, whoever this guy is playing Ken, he is not Ken. Ryu sort of looks the part. I mean, there are some characters that do sort of look okay, but this guy is not Ken. And why no Fei Long in the movie? I mean, that's another big question. Like, if you're going to get in everybody from up to Super Street Fighter 2 at that point, why is Fei Long the one that draws the short straw? I mean, we get T-Hawk in it, and he's like sort of much less a popular character than what Fei Long is, but no Fei Long. But there are some characters I feel they got sort of right. I think Sagat looks the part. Vega does. Even Zangief, even though like he has some real cheesy comic moments, sort of like hand on forehead, face palming type of moments, he still looks like Zangief. And there's a lot of one-liners in this that are sort of funny when you first see him when you're about 10, 11 years old, but they don't sort of cut a lot of mustard nowadays. But like I say, not to take to not that, but at least Zangief does look like Zangief. At least Sagat does look like Sagat. Vega does look like Vega. I mean, Ken, that is not Ken. I'm not bashing the actor here. I'm talking about like to whoever the casting director was. Why they cast this? I mean, he just looks nothing like him. And why, like I say, Ken and Ryu are con artists, I have no idea. I know this was something that they followed into the Street Fighter animated TV show, but wow. I mean, the less said about Blanca, the better. I mean, they sort of used the Charlie Nash sort of idea and integrate that into the Blanca character, but I mean, most of you have seen it, so I'm not giving away any sort of major plot things here that nobody's. I mean, everything I'm saying in this review, this little discussion, is nothing nobody has said a million times over the years since this film's been made. I mean, I know it does have sort of a cult sort of following now, just for how cheesy, laughable it is, but at the time, you have to remember this was regarded to be a serious take. Well, not a serious take, but a movie, Hollywood movie on the Street Fighter franchise. And what gets me the most with this film is that it's based on a fighting game, and instead we get a war movie with guns and shootouts, and there isn't one memorable fight sequence in this. I mean, this is where the Mortal Kombat movie excelled in so many ways and just was way ahead of the Street Fighter movie, because at least they knew what they were trying to do. They knew it was a beat 'em up. They knew kids would want to see some fight sequences. I think it's the thing that a lot of franchises do. When you sway and go so much from the source material, you stand to alienate and lose so many fans. And this is what a lot of people are still doing even now. They're getting this source material and they're changing things in so much. I'm all for different interpretations, but sometimes they change things. Sometimes it is best to just film it, shoot it, and do it exactly how it's meant to be. I know the idea of making a whole plot around Street Fighter may not have been easy. And like I said, the game probably been around for about 4 years at that point, 3 or 4 years at that point, I believe. But it's, when you're on screen, when it's on screen, you're watching this and you're like, with all that money and everything, is that really the best they can do? As I said, I'm not bashing this film. I sort of have a soft spot for it. I'm not saying I hate this film, but in regards as a Street Fighter movie, when you've got, I mean, at the end, well, we'll get to the end in a minute, but as I say, there's not one memorable fight sequence. There's a really annoying scene, like the one where I just want to sort of not smash the TV, but I just want to smash something. Where Ryu and Vega are in this ring and they're about to fight, and it builds and builds and builds, and Sagat's Ken says, "Why are you making me watch this?" And Sagat goes, "Well, you're next. You fight next." The clock's ticking down. The music's getting louder and louder. Vega's looking the part, right? Even like I say, the guy playing Ryu looks good enough, looks okay for Ryu, and the suspense is kicking in, and we think, here we go, right? The film's suddenly going to, right? It's going to be a Street Fighter movie from here in. We're finally getting the fights, and it's in the cage sort of thing, how you like want to see Vega, and then out of nowhere, Van Damme, Guile's character, Guile just crashes through in a tank through the wall as soon as they're about to like go at it, and just places everyone under arrest. That was my big sort of moment, and I mean, I was just screaming at the screen when I first saw this, and I mean, I didn't even know, did they even know who the target audience was? I just, like I say, I think I've read somewhere, it might even be on the Wikipedia, but I think the director said at one point he wanted it to be a cross between sort of James Bond and sort of Star Wars and that kind of thing. It's like, what made you think that's what people want to see from a Street Fighter movie? I know he did say, because of the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out the year before, he wanted to sort of like get away from that, because they said he apparently they're trying to follow it too much from the video game or something. It's like, have you seen the Mario Brothers movie? It's like, it's nothing like the video game. And like, it's amazing how times have changed, you know, it really is. But you just think, I mean, the end scene towards the end of the film, when it really drops, it's when all characters sort of somehow get changed into like their respective costumes. Ken and Ryu in like red and white, Balrog, Chun-Li, Honda, Zangief, they all look exactly how you like imagined like a live action version of them to look. But they're all just like standing around Bison's lair doing nothing at the end. They're all just standing there as Guile attempts his assault on Bison's lair with like this boat blowing stuff up. And it's like, I don't want to watch this. Like, this isn't what I want from a Street Fighter movie. I want to see like my favourite like characters, my beloved characters from the game having fights like you get in the Mortal Kombat movie. That, like I say, that is where the Mortal Kombat movie did get it right. But if you watch this film again, just watch the ending. They're all just standing there doing nothing. You've got about 8 or 10 characters standing around doing nothing. DJ sort of works for Bison. And it's just, there's just so much about this film that I could say. I mean, I could ramble and rant about this film for ages, but I say it's not that I hate it. It's just there's so much where you just think it's so laughably bad that it's the kind of film you want to just chill out with your friends and just have a beer and just laugh just how bad it is. Like, they actually thought this was a good idea. Then they're just standing around. And then he gets there, then it turns into this shootout because, you know, that's what we want to see. We want some more shootouts. If I want a Street Fighter movie, I want a war movie. I want shootouts. And don't even get me started on like the plot with the Guile faking his own death kind of. I mean, did we really need a whole subplot of Guile faking his death? Like, why? I mean, I do get, in its defence, I do get a sense the film was rushed. It does seem a lot all over the place and like they didn't know kind of what they were doing when they were filming this. Obviously, their script might have been in place, and I know, obviously, Raul Julia's illness and his cancer, unfortunately, might have obviously impacted production. But it's in a way, like I said, I know a lot of people sort of bash this film, but a lot of people do have, like me, do have a bit of a soft spot for it. And it's not to say it's laughable is an understatement. It's such a shame because I say it did have potential. When you look at the covers and like sort of the poster for it, you think, oh, okay, everybody at least looks the part. You know, everybody does sort of look like their respective characters. Well, aside from Ken, obviously. I mean, the film is okay, but there's just nothing memorable about this. I mean, taking the Street Fighter character's name out of this, if you had this just base level and just as a film, and if you took the Street Fighter characters' names out of this, like their respective characters, if say there was just Stuart, John, Mark, and whoever, Tony, and you were just watching it, all you've really got here is just a kid-friendly war movie. That is all you got, and this guy just trying to rescue some hostages. That is basically the bulk of the film. But as I say, not bashing it. I know people do have like fond memories of this film, but it's like I say, compared to you can't help me personally. I just constantly comparing to the Mortal Kombat movie, you know, because that was just so done right. It was done 100%. It was 90 minutes of Mortal Kombat the way you wanted it to be. This film is Street Fighter, 90 minutes of Street Fighter the way you definitely do not want it to be. So, as I mentioned, it's the kind of film, check out with your buddies if you've got having some beers, like chilling out one evening. But, you know, just because it's Street Fighter, I have to own it, that kind of thing. But, yeah, let me know if you've seen Street Fighter, your thoughts on it. Maybe I'm being too harsh on it, I don't know. But, yeah, hope you enjoyed the review.